Hi everyone, hello. I'm Alex. I'm the innovation lead for dentsu UK, and we're here today to talk about bots and humans, or the way in which AI and humanity are going to interact over the coming years. We're focused on creativity as well. So I'm joined by an illustrious panel. Rather than me butcher your introductions, let's you can do it yourselves. So Mark, let's start with you.
Hey there, I'm Mark Knowles. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Tag. I've been with the business now for just gone 15 years. So.
A veteran.
Yes. So.
Cool. Hi, Adrian Cutler, Microsoft Advertising, and I look after the global agency relationship of Dentsu. Woohoo, Dentsu!
Hi everyone, I'm Fiona Ross. I'm a Virgin Group brand and creative director, so thrilled to be here.
Thank you for coming. So the first question, AI, it is a term that everyone's using. It is a buzzword. It means many things to many different people. How do you kind of cut through the hype and understand what's real and what's vaporware, and what's your kind of take on that? Because you looked at LinkedIn profiles across the industry, it's AI this, AI that. I think for a lot of brands, it's quite confusing to know kind of a routine. So who wants to take the first one? Fiona,
Yeah.
Go on.
I think Gen AI is what has driven this intense interest in AI. It's AI is in everything we use. Gen AI is new and it's absolutely transformative. I think Gen AI is rocket fuel. The fact that it can analyze huge swathes of data, that it can create insight, create new work, send it straight to platform, and then optimize immediately is incredible. And I think open-minded creative people are using it as an assistant, and it's really speeding up ideation. Is it perfect? No. Is it risk-free? No. Is it scary? Yes. Is it here to stay? Yes.
Nice, thanks. I'd like to take it a slightly different angle as well and sort of look at it from two perspectives, if I may. So one of like AI that is tangible is really tangible when you can see the benefit to humanity and the benefit to business. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the benefit to humanity. Good friend of mine actually is living with stage 4 breast cancer. And one of the applications that we've done with AI is with partnership with Aberdeen University, of where they've used AI to look at mammograms and identify tumours in early development. And we found that actually, if this is then scaled out, we'd be able to find tumours 12% more than what would be the traditional route of people having to do further investigations and actually taking sort of like 30% longer to get to diagnosis. And as we know, with a lot of cancers, like the sooner you can get to diagnosis, the better. So that's a real human benefit that we see and is happening right now today. We've done the same with some other things as well in brain tumours. And then you've also got the business application, because a lot of the times it's like, where do businesses see the value? And the IDC did a really lovely study that I'd like to talk about, that they found that it roughly takes brands about 14 months to get to the point of integration with AI where they start to see the value. And the study showed that for every dollar spent on AI, in the build out, the workout, the integration, they saw $3.5 returned. And actually 5% of them saw an $8 return. So there's definitely business value and human impact with AI.
Yeah. I think at Tag, from a production perspective, we've kind of been at the forefront in terms of receiving the hype from the clients, right, or interpretation of that hype. I think somebody had said to me that 2023 was the year of hype around AI, and 2024 is the year of disappointment when they realise it's not real. And I think that what our kind of position on this is, it has to drive tangible added value, right? We're not going to come to market with something that doesn't drive a tangible added value to the client. And I certainly think when you consider production and the opportunity for the application of AI in production, that tangible added value is real, right? We can optimize, we can speed up things, we can join things together that we historically couldn't join together. And I think that's where it's really exciting, especially when we talk about things like personalization at scale. That's obviously a buzzword that we're all thinking about and trying to build models to deliver. So I think this year, actually, rather than disappointment, what we're seeing is the sort of maturity of actually added value. So I think that's really important in embracing that in the products that we're building as well. And how brands evaluate products when they've got other companies coming to them, I think you have to be very lucid, right? You have to understand that what they're showing you, it's not just a clever set of wireframes, right? Or a clever kind of demonstration that's not scalable to your brand. I think you have to ask really probing questions. That can be quite daunting for a brand that doesn't necessarily know an awful lot about AI. So I think the power of partnership, bringing partners together, making sure that they're building for the good of the brand is really important when you think about trying to overcome some of that hype cycle.
And to that point, I think there's a lot of interest. I think what I see when I talk to brands and clients is, where do we start? Where do we begin? You come at this from multiple different kind of touch points. What is your kind of view on that? Building on what you said there, Mark, in terms of where do you begin?
Yeah.
Where do you start?
We had a great chat with Fiona beforehand, and I think that one of the biggest blockers for a lot of brands to evaluate the efficacy of AI in their business is the lack of an AI strategy. And I think from a consultative perspective, we need to do more to help brands evaluate where AI can be applied within their business and drive value. And I know that, Fiona, you've obviously got a good strategy within Virgin to be able to do that. And I think that's a really great place to start the conversation.
I don't know if we have a good strategy, but we are certainly trying to get there. So
Nice.
We have created an AI Curious Collective, and it's a group of absolute diverse people. We've got purpose, brand, comms, data, tech, data security. We've got legal and IP. We've got people, procurement, and strategy. So 10 people. We meet on a fortnightly basis. We discuss use cases, risks, what's happening in the regulatory environment, and we talk about our people and how they can utilize AI. The debates are quite heated. We go from the big societal questions, like what's going to happen to the future of humanity, right down to who needs a ChatGPT Teams license and how much is that going to cost, and who's seen a Richard scam this week? Literally in May, we had 250 Richard scams. So it's just showing that Gen AI and deep fakes. So, that's the beginning of the development of a strategy.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, I think that's critical. Like, where do brands start? Well, obviously, talk to dentsu. Any brands listening, talk to dentsu. But look, yeah, of course, yeah. I'm going to shameless plug. I mentioned I look after dentsu, right? But yeah, I mean, I think what you do in some of the work that you've done already in AI with Dentsu and with Microsoft is it's really cool. It's super cool. And, the study of so many brands don't have AI strategy and are not figuring it out. We saw this actually with the bots. And then it was slightly the other way around because we saw actually there were loads of people would come to us and say, I need a chatbot. Why do you need a chatbot? I don't know. I think it's cool. I think I need one. So it is that of understanding what is the position and the place and where you can leverage it and what is the benefit. And I think there's an accountability on the technology companies as well to try to make it more seamless. It's we're not done. We're still just starting. And, when you look at our beach house, we say that, AI isn't creative, you are. And it is that. It's it's still down on the person. And then there's some great sort of brand examples of where they are leaning in. Just this week, we launched a different type of application of AI, which is AI for scientific research. And we've partnered with Unilever to help them sort of realize the vision of speeding up that process of scientific discovery, which can take a significant amount of time. And they're starting to look at the skin as its own biome and teaching their AI that model to understand it better. It's really cool stuff.
I think you also have to take a top-down, bottom-up approach, right? You need to engage the people that are on the front lines that are spotting the opportunities of where to apply AI to drive business outcomes. But that has to ladder to a strategy that's coming from the top down, right? Too often we see brand managers that are in the front line of delivering content, for example, spotting an opportunity to deliver more performant content, and then they come to us, we suggest a POC or a tool, and then it goes back into this ether in the business where nobody understands how to activate it from a strategic perspective.
And procurement go, what is this?
Right.
And how much does it cost?
Yeah, and then you get into the infosec, the ethical questions, and if you don't have the strategy aligned at the start to evaluate those things quickly, you can lose that kind of momentum.
Yeah, for me, one of the interesting things about AI is that a lot of these sorts are decentralized, right? Anyone can jump on a ChatGPT, for example, and brands don't like decentralization, right? They like centralized control. So for me, like you mentioned this point just earlier about what Microsoft stand for at the moment around AI. What do you see how are the ways of working between humans and AI going to evolve? Or how's it playing out now, and how will it evolve in the future? Because I've been in rooms of clients where they're all in. I've been in rooms with other clients where there's clearly friction in terms of will this AI replace this capability or my job? So how do you see those ways of working kind of playing out, I guess now, but also in the future?
From a Virgin perspective, we are absolutely a human-centered brand. So we're all about experiences powered by people. So, really, we've been really asking ourselves, what role does AI play and what role do humans play? I think it has an incredible place for the very repetitive tasks where you need to crunch through a great deal and you want precision and you want optimization. But it still needs a human in the loop to make sure you manage risk and it's on brand. But I think where humans play, and this is where hopefully our time will go, is around being imaginative and emotional, and things like strategy and identity and campaign platform development. I think all of that needs to still be in the domain of humans. The other thing that we've been debating is the role of people in front of camera, people back of camera, and this concept of synthetic humans, which feels quite contrary to a brand that's authentic. And I really like what Dove have done with their very public stance in keeping with real beauty of going, we're not going to use AI to create or distort images of women, but equally they put out a prompt playbook that helps people who are going to use AI to do it in a very diverse and inclusive way. So, I think this is a big question, the role of humans in AI, but we need to be able to use it effectively.
Yes, that. And I would also say, one of the things that we've been looking at as well was the consumer behavior, the people behavior. What can we do to influence that? And obviously, we did a bigger launch called Copilot.
That thing called Copilot.
Yeah, thanks very much.
That small thing.
Yeah, just a little thing. All right, audience participation. See if we're awake after lunch. Show of hands if you've used Copilot. Hooray! Show of hands if you use ChatGPT. They're not the same, just saying. So look, Copilot, we looked at it and we saw that there's a particular user behavior that hasn't changed for 20 years. And this is search. For 20 years, we've been trying to speak the language of a machine, and it didn't matter which search engine you're using. 40% of the behavior was you put in 3 keywords or 4 or 5, you click a link, you go back, you click another link because it didn't give you what you want, or you change those 3 or 4 words. And we thought, what if you could take the power of a large language model and OpenAI and anchor that with a search algo and have a human conversation with a search engine? Turns out we've found something that resonates quite well. And the initial results are that we saw that since we launched it last year, people using Copilot on Bing, we've had 5 billion chats. And it's doubling quarter over quarter. And then the user behavior is changing as well, because it started off with very basic questions of how do I book a holiday, or how do I find out a particular place or a thing, a traditional experience. But now people are getting more curious. They're asking business questions. They're asking sensitive questions because it's a secure space. So, we're definitely seeing that sort of change of that human approach of how it can use AI in a way that is a true co-pilot for life. Yeah. And that's one of the ways. I'd love to also, kudos to yourselves of some of the work that you've done here as well. I know we're going to sort of talk about this a little bit, but like we can really think about like that human experience, and that's where you put them at the center with like some of the work that we've done together. I think is awesome, and maybe we want to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, we did. We created an AI avatar called Lisa AI with Alex at Dentsu and Microsoft. And this really, it was done incredibly quickly. It was a quick filming, 2 hours of speaking. It was one of our team members, and she sits on top of the Virgin Voyager site and is able to navigate you through the site. You can ask her questions. She responds in real time, just as Lisa in our office. And that just demonstrated the power of having a very warm and human conversation with a bot that looks real. And it was a fun exercise with just a simple prototype. Thank you, Alex and Microsoft.
Yeah, and like, you know, you might have seen about the actors' strike, SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild that happened recently. And like when we built that technology, we built it so that you can track it down to the individual words that are being said, the time spent, so that you can actually create commercial contracts that can be viable.
I have a counterpunch, I suppose, in relation to the value proposition, right? We talk an awful lot about the ethics of AI and what it results in terms of jobs, in terms of creativity. The reality is that what we're seeing from brands is also the value proposition, right? A lot of brands that we see in relation to specifically voiceover, we have brands that have got $2 million POs open specifically to pay usage on talent. They don't want to pay the $2 million. They want to use AI to develop the VO for their end cards, right? So there's this kind of sort of like counter kind of argument in terms of the actual monetary value that AI can bring. Now, we would all argue that we want to be authentic and we want VO artists to maintain their jobs, and that's really important. So it's important that you're developing the tools to enable that to be tracked and paid for and usage to continue. But there's also this kind of counter of cost, right? And I think just going back to your point, you know, redefining interactivity in the customer experience, one of the most exciting things for us at TAG is when we talk about the customer, we always talk about the end buyer. But actually for TAG, our customers are our brands that are commissioning work from us. And one of the things that we see in terms of a single user experience, right, the MarTech stack is incredibly complicated, right? Lots of different platforms, lots of monolithic workflows, lots of buttons and processes, right? It takes a lot of change management, a lot of training on behalf of the brands, which results in a lot of admin. And I think that one thing that we see with the user experience of a natural language processing system or a chat system, much more fluent, it's much more conversational, it's much easier to stand up, it's a lot easier to then enrich a kind of brand essence behind the scenes that kind of responds like in a like-minded way. So that single user experience across multiple kind of modalities, right? So they could be briefing us, right? Which is why we're building Co-Create at TAG, which is this kind of AI front-end gateway to how you can access TAG services. So now, for example, if you come into Co-Create, you'll be able to brief us in natural language on a production project that you want us to produce. The interoperability with that across other aspects of Co-Create. So for example, you can search the DAM now through natural language, right? So you can find your assets a lot easier. When you're briefing us, we can start to enrich that brief with assets that we found in the DAM. We can start to do drag and drop where we give you performance analysis of an asset when you actually put it into the system, or you can derive insights about our operational performance. And this is all dynamic, it's all real time, it's all interoperable. It changes the paradigm when it's driven by a conversation. It's arguably more authentic and more human, right? Obviously, It has to be a human in the loop. There's always the ability to be able to escalate that, you know, to a project manager. But from a user experience perspective, it starts to deliver on the promise that we've been talking about for a long time. And when we think about content velocity, we need to sort of unburden the brand a bit more, right? They can't spend 6 months being trained on a platform when they want to brief us and get these assets back quicker. We need to be able to stand that up in a much more intuitive and natural way.
The question mark is, what do you do with that time saving?
Right question.
I think
so. The business take that and run with the profit, or do they give back to people?
It's a great question, Fiona.
Yes.
I honestly, I think it has to be balanced. I think we have to redefine the commerciality of how we produce content, because the reality is we're investing 16 million, right, in some products, right, and ultimately we've got to pay for that somehow. So the time saved on behalf of the brand, the time saved on our side, it has to be a combination of both. Give some back to the brand, give some back to us. Obviously, we've got to maintain some margin as well. So we've got to have an open dialogue about new commercial models.
Yeah.
Challenges, IP, governance, compliance, all these structural considerations around how you operate and use AI. What are the biggest barriers that you see kind of currently? Because everyone wants to do more, everyone wants to get started in this space, but most of the time we speak to clients and there is that challenge question kind of comes up kind of from the get-go, which is sometimes frustrating. So what's your view on that?
I think I would say that we see it twofold. We're starting to see MSAs or service agreements with clients that if they don't have an AI strategy, they're more likely to have stronger language in their MSAs around not using AI. And those that do have more of a strategy and are prepared to lean in more, are much more open to that original contractual negotiation. Getting that permission and being transparent about the fact you're using AI in a production environment specifically for a brand is super important. So I think that's one blocker. And then we get into the data privacy, the ethics, and a lot of that gets surfaced through the contractual conversations, right? And I think one of the things that we've been discussing about building into the platforms from the get-go is this notion of observability, right? Because we need to be able to report back to the brand how these tools are being using, what are we generating, who's using them, how are the prompts performing, like are we making sure that we're filtering against profanity and kind of things like that. So observability is another aspect of being able to report back to the brands, how these tools are being activated.
I think the big brands with massive trust, consumer trust, and the potential for reputational risk if this goes wrong is big. So that's often why people will go relatively slowly. But having a diverse group who are able to understand the risks, set up process for mitigation, and kind of get all the basics in place is probably the best way to be able to tackle it. So really understanding how you manage that sandbox, how you manage those contracts, how you manage bias, how you treat your data carefully, how you treat other people's data carefully, testing, learning from your mistakes, going back in, step and repeat. I think that there's got to be a big process around that. But then the other bit is, how do you then start to use it in a magical way and in a really creative and distinctive way? And but you have to have those basics in place to play.
Yeah, cool. And a lot of the tech providers, us included, have these responsible AI principles. So one of the ways that we're sort of trying to tackle it in a technology layer perspective is to ensure that any AI that a developer builds has to go through like a panel to make sure, is it transparent, is it inclusive, is it responsible? Like all of our core principles to make sure that those are applied before we put anything out to market. Now, we're not always going to get it right. We're still learning, we're still developing in the space. But that has to be the core essence. And then also, there is a role beyond the technology companies of legislation. And I honestly believe, like we saw a whole spin-up through GDPR and e-privacy, where we saw a lot more specialists in law, we're going to start to see a similar influx of AI specialists because it needs to happen.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think Jeff is probably around, but they did the Consumer Vision 2035, and I think one of the interesting insights in there is that brands will actually have to become AI guardians, right? Because the data that they will hold on their consumers, they need to prevent that kind of unwanted solicitation, right? Because just because we can doesn't mean we should, right?
Yes, exactly.
That is the right mic drop.
Because we can. You're in.
So second to last question, talent. So we've seen a whole new generation of creative people, creatives, using these tools in interesting ways. Like when I employ for my team, the ability to use these tools is kind of quite high on the list now in a very short space of time. So how do you see that playing out in terms of the way in which the talent base is going to change or is changing for work of the future?
So I'd love to start on this if I may, because kudos to Dentsu. I know we're in the Dentsu beach and I work with Dentsu all day, but honestly, I mean it. If you go to our Microsoft official page on Copilot in M365, there's 3 brands listed on there because you're the first of just 3 that leaned into Copilot on the very early days and saw the value and wanted to learn and wanted to embrace it and understand what it could mean. So you have Dentsu, you have Lumen, so obviously a partner as well, and then Bayer, and that's it. And then we saw the same as well when we brought that same Copilot experience into our own ad platform. And again, like we have some PR pieces, we've put it out there because again, you leaned in. And then also when we've been doing sort of internal training as well, like you bring the people. So you are like leaning in. And I think honestly, it starts top down. Because there is a need and a passion and a want to be able to understand this world and what it can mean for media and creative and all the aspects of CXM and everything else. So you lean in well. So that's the first thing I would say, absolutely.
I think, when we look at it through the technology org, right, obviously we're trying to hire people that have an understanding of AI, right, and how to build AI products. And that's few and far between, right? Now, we've obviously got a whole organization that we need to prepare, we need to train, we need to nurture and foster their curiosity as well, but we need to do that in a very safe environment. I think it's quite difficult in a production company today to allow your teams to kind of use it ad nauseum, right? There's still a lot of products that have no governance around them. You can't just roll that out to your teams and allow them to use it. So you have to train them, nurture them kind of in a safe space. And I think we're still trying to train that muscle a little bit. We've got a kind of gated strategy actually at TAG in terms of, the way we roll out AI is like if we don't get through the first gate, you can't get to the second, the third, and the fourth. And a big part of that is that sort of legal strategy, that ethics, that training, making sure that the teams are prepared before we start putting it into client environments. But really, it's like we're finding that the people that we do bring into the organization that have AI experience are quickly being kind of put on a pedestal and kind of shared around, right? And they become kind of a bit of a font of all knowledge. And I think that technology is coming in over the top of many different disciplines as a solution, and therefore you're finding that these technology people are becoming unicorns in production, in media, in creative, right? But through the lens of technology. So we've got this kind of battle to sort of fight in terms of not letting those people get saturated. So there's a lot of learnings that are coming out of how we employ AI.
Yeah. I think giving democratic access to tools and training is absolutely key. And then also having a place, a space, a brand that they want to work for.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, we've done some research papers with dentsu over the years, and I've got to call it out. I know this is about bots, but this is sort of showing, as we think about the education for what's next, we need to collaborate on the next as well, because one of the other papers that we wrote about 2.5 years ago was on the rise of sustainable media, and just this week I got a message from a professor in Berkeley that is teaching it. Our paper is teaching that in university, in college situations, so that, which elevates it more than just this beautiful media event.
Yeah. I mean, that would be amazing to be able to collaborate and go, how can we change business for good with this tool? How can we, how can we tackle what's coming down the line? So beyond just being productive.
Last question. One takeaway from this, one thing that anyone listening to the audience that is looking to delve more into this space, what would be your top tip? Mark, let's go over you.
Bring together the power of partnership. Bring together a diverse set of experiences in either building, implementing, or using products, whether that's Microsoft or brands or dentsu from a consultancy perspective or TAG from a productions perspective. The power of partnership will accelerate your ability to apply this technology.
Love that. AI is not creative. You are. Allow yourself the time to play with it and learn it.
Definitely collaboration. And I'm also going to just raise something that we use in experience design from Richard, which is don't think what's the fastest way to do it or the cheapest way to do it. Think what's the most amazing way to do it.
Love that.
Goosebumps.
Oh, that is a good endpoint. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.